Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar, Digital Nomads. Welcome to Panama. I'm Remco de Bruin, Director of Holland House Panama, which is a non-profit association helping Dutch entrepreneurs to be successful here in Panama with consulting services, networking, and soft landing. We have now about 33 members, large Dutch multinationals such as Philips and Heineken, which are our founding members, but also many SMEs and small companies have joined us. I'm happy now to do this webinar for individual travelers and freelancers that have an interest in Panama. And it's great to see that we can count on a participation on everywhere around the world from, I think I counted 5 continents. So everybody is welcome, and we also share the recording of this webinar afterwards. So for people that are interested in Panama. So I quickly go through the program with you today. Just a second. So first we'll start with Mario Perdomo of the Castro and Robles lawyers. He will speak on relocating to Panama as a nomad, the digital nomad visa and the Friendly Nations visa, and other ways you can stay here. Mario, very welcome. We'll get to you soon. Then I'm very happy that we can count on the participation of a few experienced digital nomads that we will do a round table with, so they can give their views on what is important when you are a nomad, how is it to be in Panama, what are the pros and the cons. These kind of questions I'll go through with them. So we have Susanna Schuringa from the Netherlands at this moment, but maybe not for very long, we will see.
No.
And very experienced nomad in all parts of the world. Then we have John Dijkgraaf, who is here with us in Panama City, and Ankie van Aalten, who is normally working from Bocas del Toro. And myself, I've been a nomad in Santa Catalina in Panama, so we have many regions covered that we can talk about and tell you about. Then at the end, we will do a question and answer sessions with attendees. So you can raise your hand by asking a question live to the speakers, or write your question in the Q&A when we will read it to the speakers for you. So that is all for now from me, and we'll go to Mario Perdomo of the Castro and lawyers, the Castro and Robles lawyers. Mario, feel free to introduce yourself and start your presentation.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Mario Perdomo. I work at the Castro and Robles. And if you allow me a couple of seconds, I will start sharing my screen with you to get this started. So my topic is the digital nomads permit or visa. This is fairly new for Panama, and we're trying to catch up with other countries that have something very similar. So my purpose here is to give you a glimpse on how to work from and live here. This came about in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is an incentive for tourism in Panama. This will allow all nomads to come here and work anywhere from 9 to 18 months. And we're, for the sake of this presentation, we're just going to call it the Digital Nomads Visa, even though it's called the Remote Workers Visa. The application itself is swift, it's partially digital, and it's more budget-friendly than other prolonged stay alternatives. However, if you find that Panama is the place for you and you wish to stay longer, I will talk a little bit later about a long-term alternative that you might consider, and it's fondly called the Friendly Countries Visa. Basically because the actual name is quite long to pronounce. In a recent interview with the Panama Immigration Service, it was revealed to us that both permits are up for changes soon. So some of these changes will be described today, and some tips on particular things that are going to change I'm gonna share with you. But to start, we have a special cameo for you guys. Even though we're not able to squeeze her for more of her time, she did want to pop up and say hi. So here it is.
El Servicio Nacional de Migración de la República de Panamá saluda a Holland House y a todos los participantes del webinar de visa de nómada digital. Esperamos que esta ley de turismo pueda atraerlos a Panamá para que conozcan todos los beneficios de nuestro país y tengamos el placer de poderlos recibir. Bienvenidos.
Well, that was it. She is the Director of Immigration. Her name is Amira Hussein, and she prepared this little video for us to get us started. So why consider relocating to Panama? I am quite confident that my fellow panelists today will do a far better job in describing firsthand the experience and the amenities of a nomad of Panama and the experience of a nomad here. So I rather leave it up to them. Then we come to a part in I discuss a little bit about how to come and stay here. So once you enter Panama, you need to submit a COVID-19 negative test, or it's either an antigen or a PCR test with a maximum of 48 hours prior to arrival. If you're unable to provide the test, you can have one done in the airport or in the port of entry at a cost. Once you enter, you will complete an electronic affidavit, which basically will go through all of the different measurements undertaken by the country to try to control the disease. These are mandatory use of masks, the temperature checks, distancing in public places, capacity controls, restaurants, theaters, stores, and gatherings, and for the time being, a curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. So, how to relocate here? First off, as a tourist, you can stay in Panama for up to 3 months with no paperwork whatsoever. This probably will give you enough time to decide whether or not Panama is the place for you. If that is the case, then all immigration proceedings start with the same basic documents: a full copy of your passport with your entry stamps, a police record from the last place of your residence, a good health certificate, an immigration affidavit, which you can complete once you enter into the country, and 3 passport-size photographs. Yes, we're still doing the photograph things. It is very important for you to consider that all documents that you bring from abroad need to be legalized first. And once you bring them over, then we will translate it here in Panama by a public translator. So let's talk about our headliner, which is the remote worker permit or the digital nomad visa. The particulars that the applicants need to meet in this visa is that you either have to work for a transnational company or be self-employed, an entrepreneur. Your payments or earnings have to come from abroad. And the work that you perform here cannot be construed as local income. Your earnings have to exceed $3,000 a month. The specific requirements of this visa, there is a form that the National Immigration Service is preparing. It's a digital one, which will be available shortly. You need to provide a good health certificate. You need to provide a copy of your insurance policy, which should cover you through all of your stay here in Panama. You need to bring a certificate of incorporation of the company that employs you or that you own and do business through that company. So let's talk about how the nature of business is considered by immigration. If you're employed by a company, then you have to also produce a letter signed by the legal representative of the company, which should have your personal information, your position and job description, your monthly income, which again has to exceed $3,000, that you are in fact a remote worker, and that the company undertakes to bear all the repatriation expenses should you need to be repatriated for any kind of reason. Let's say that your visa gets canceled or you have an ailment that you need to be taken care of. There should be a deposit that covers that repatriation, and I will explain that a little bit later. If you're self-employed, you need to present a certification of the company that you own and you do business through. And also an affidavit, and this is a little bit of a touchy subject, but an affidavit that will state your name, the name of your clients, the services that you provide, the expected earnings of all of those contracts or services, the origin of the funds, and how often are you getting paid by those clients. All of the information submitted before the National Immigration Service is considered to be confidential. You cannot access that information. That is not subject to public record, and it is a requirement to apply for the visa. There's also an additional affidavit that you need to provide, and that affidavit basically states that you would not accept a job offer while in Panama. So you come in and you do your digital work, but you cannot undertake any jobs offer here. More than that, if eventually it is discovered that the nomad has taken up a job here or represents a company here other than the company used to apply for the permit, then the visa will be canceled. There is a payment of $250 in application rights. Depending on who you work for or what do you do, that payment can be waived if you work for an NGO or another recognized organization by the Immigration Services that provides a social labor or has a social undertaking. In addition to that, you need to provide proof of earnings. The best way to go about this is either a bank certification that proves that, first of all, your order of your income comes from abroad and it's linked to your particular employment relationship or nature of business, or an account statement from your bank, which proves periodicity and who's making the payments. Again, this information is confidential. It's only used for the purpose of applying for the visa, but it is a requirement to submit. You remember that I mentioned at the beginning that this is up for a change. The way that it's drafted right now, it only considers that the nomad works either through a company that she owns, or it's hired by a company to work remotely. The new amendment should also consider the possibility of the nomad working to its own name. And there will be another additional requirements to be made in order to provide for that evidence so that the Immigration Service can analyze the application. So there is something very important to consider. The cost of this will change. The way that it was drafted initially did not consider that the nomad would be traveling with his family, his immediate family. The amendment will also consider dependents for the nomad. And it will set a requirement depending on the earnings, in addition to what the nomad needs to earn per dependent. So as I mentioned, the minimum is $3,000 US a month. And it is estimated that per dependent of the nomad, that month, the amount has to increase at least $1,000 per person. So if you have a family of 3, then $5,000 is your number. In addition to that, you should consider that this is fairly new. We had that meeting with immigration just this week, and it's also subject to change. Panama has to consider that there are several similar visas in the region, and they have to make it more attractive for the nomads to come in and make it easier for them to apply. So we're hoping that the new amendment to this particular visa would make it so that you can feel that it is a streamlined process and you can just do an application, forget about it, and take care of your main business, which is to produce or work from Panama digitally. Then let's move on to the other type of visa, which is a prolonged stay visa. The friendly countries visa. This is quite popular in Panama, and it is a visa that will allow for permanent residency. Quite basically, if you apply before August 17th, basically immediately. After your application is analyzed, you will eventually get a Panamanian residency. The amendment that already has undergone this decree states that as of August 17, you will have to apply first, renew after 2 years, and then be eligible to obtain a permanent residency in Panama. There is a list of countries that will be eligible to apply. So basically the requirements for applicants are to be from one of those countries and to meet certain specific requirements. In order not to burden you with the whole list, I will say that most of Europe, North and South America, Asia, some Asian and some Oceanic countries, and you either have to be employed by someone, you have to be an entrepreneur, and with the amendment now, if you're looking into investing in property in Panama, you will also be eligible to apply for this particular visa. As I mentioned, the specific requirements are to produce a certification or a bank statement that reflects at least a balance exceeding $5,000. Depending on the purpose of your residency, whether you're going to be working from Panama, hired by someone, or investing in property, the requirements will change. So if if you're applying before August 17, there is a very attractive option, which is to start a company in Panama and indicate to the Panamanian government that you're going to be conducting business through that company. So it's fairly simple. Setting up a company, as I will explain later, will take about 4 business days to get it up and running. And it used to be and it still is the most popular way to access this permanent residency in Panama. If you're working for someone, then the requirements change. You need to produce a letter from your employer indicating what is your position, what is your salary, what is the job description that you have here in Panama, and obviously also that the company has to undertake or bear the repatriation expenses if necessary. You also need to produce a certificate of incorporation of the company that is hiring you and the business license of that company. Again, if you were to apply before August 17, it'll be your business license and it'll be your company. After August 17, with the amendment of the law, if you purchase property in Panama exceeding $200,000, then you're also eligible to apply for this property. This, however, has to be a direct purchase, and the property cannot be encumbered by any mortgage. In addition to that, as I mentioned before, passport photos and the payment of application rights, which are $250. And in addition to that, the payment of the repatriation cost or deposit, which is $800 per applicant. In a nutshell, this came to be the most popular visa because of the large scope of countries that were eligible to apply. I'm going to take a little bit of a jump here, and I will just give you a quick rundown of the list because I feel it's important not to leave it up in the air. If you're from the UK, Germany, Argentina, Australia, South Korea, Austria, Brazil, Belgium, Canada, Spain, USA, Slovakia, France, Finland, the Netherlands, Ireland, Japan, Norway, the Czech Republic, Switzerland, Singapore, Poland, Uruguay, Chile, Sweden, Hungary, Greece, Portugal, Croatia, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Cyprus, Malta, Serbia, Montenegro, Israel, Denmark, South Africa, New Zealand, Hong Kong, China, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, Monaco, Andorra, San Marino, Costa Rica, Paraguay, and Mexico. Sorry for that, had to be done. So moving forward let's talk about the considerations of setting up a company in Panama, if you were to consider the option before August 17. Panama has a territorial principle with regards to taxes. So any income that you're generating abroad is not taxable here in Panama. This is very important for you to consider because if you were to, let's say, apply through a company, if your company is not operational, you're not subject to taxes nor need to pay taxes. The only taxes that you need to consider, you have, for example, a holding company, is the franchise tax, which is a yearly fixed payment of $300. Let's look into with the considerations of what the different taxes are in Panama. For the sake of the argument, I have divided this into companies and individuals, but please focus on the portion of the companies. Income tax yearly is 25%. Obviously, that is subject to deductions. There's also dividends. Whenever you make a dividend, you have to take 10% of dividend tax. That is also subject to considerations because depending on the nature of the earnings, the dividend rate may be reduced to 5%. If the income, for example, is generated from abroad. GST in Panama, if you're providing services from Panama and you have to withhold with GST and send it over to the tax authority, is 7%. That is also applicable whenever you're purchasing goods and services here in Panama. As I mentioned, the franchise tax is fixed and it's a $300 a year rate for any company you start up in Panama. If you're to consider the property option, then the Panama has basically a bracket system for the property tax. So any property worth under $30,000, you won't pay any taxes at all. Special properties that are considered to be family-owned, sole residence properties can apply for an extension of that gap from $0 to $125,000, and you won't pay any property tax. After the $30,000 benchmark, if you have not done the additional filing in order to get that gap until $120,000, then the rate is 0.6% from $30,000 to $250,000. Then after $250,000 and up to $500,000, the rate is 0.8%, and anything over $500,000 is 1% a year. You pay this in quarterly installments, and if you pay it upfront at the beginning of the year, you also get a 10% discount. If you're operating your company and you have to procure a business license, immediately two things will happen. You will start generating a business license tax, and you will also be immediately affiliated to whatever municipality you have stated that you're working from. So to consider this, the business license tax is 2% of the equity of the company, and it starts at $100 a year, and it's capped at $60,000 depending on basically the equity of that company. Municipal taxes vary from different districts, but just to give you a glimpse of how they operate in the capital district of Panama, if you're making anything from $0 to $40,000 a year, you only pay $10 a month. Anywhere from $450,000 to $500,000, you pay $190 a month. And if you're at the $1 million mark, then you will be paying $350 a month. That they basically go up in brackets in $5 or $10 increments up till you get to the amount that you're eligible to apply. There's also more considerations. Panama promotes small businesses, and there is an authority created specifically for that. If you were to register before that authority, you will get a 2-year break from income tax. And in addition, you will get access to some special financing programs that entity holds in order to, buy inventory, renovate, start a business. And as I mentioned, it is very important for you to consider that depending on the nature of the business that you're engaging or whatever the purpose of your visa, you may not be in the need to pay taxes. If you have any further questions on this matters, obviously this is a lot to discuss in a short period of time. I'm more than willing to answer it once we get to the stage of the questionnaire. So that's basically it. I think I believe that this synthesizes the answers of each of the permits I've discussed. I truly hope that you will consider Panama as a place to live and work from. And I thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to get to know you. Should you have any further questions or comments, just feel free to contact us and we'll gladly answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mario, for that. I think you touched upon the most important issues of people that want to come here, how they can stay here and be in Panama. So let's now go to our round table. Let's see what people think that are either here or how Nomads decide on a location. First, I would like to start with Suzanne Schuringa. If you could briefly introduce yourself to the participants.
Yeah, I'm Suzanne Schuringa, and I traveled over the last 5 years as a digital nomad, mainly in Asia, but also in America and in Africa for a while. I freelance in marketing, food design, this concept development and photography. And it's been a little mix what I did over the last years, but also depending on what I did, I choose the country. But I will tell more about that later. And I'm excited to be here.
Thanks a lot, Suzanne. Then John Dijkgraaf.
Yeah, hi, I'm John. I'm from the Netherlands. I lived 3 years in the Bahamas, and I just moved to Panama one and a half year ago. Yeah. I'm a trader on the stock exchange.
Okay, thanks, John. Welcome, and we're in the same city. Ankie.
Yeah, Ankie, also from the Netherlands. Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. I got stuck 1.5 years ago in Panama. And at that moment, I needed to be creative and became digital nomad. So it happened like that.
Okay. Well, Ankie, I think there are worse places to get stuck than Boca.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So. Tropical islands is a great place to get stuck.
Welcome and glad that you have you here share your experience. Let's start with Suzanne. Suzanne, what is, you've been to many places. How do you decide on a destination? Like what is important? Which factors are important to you?
Yeah, I think I can Yeah, mainly when I choose a place, it's or I choose personal and work-wise. So for work, I need good Wi-Fi. That's the key. I prefer that the rates are a bit lower. So in Asia, it's quite cheap to live in compared to New York, for example. And I also like that it's woman-friendly, because I also traveled in India and I worked in India, but it's easier when you have a lot of work stuff that you don't have to think about being a woman or being somewhere on the road. I used the Nomad list a lot to check out actually all the data from income rates to the degrees when the rain season is. I mean, if you go to Thailand or if you go to Vietnam, it's also good to know when the rain season is. Otherwise, you're stuck in the rain, which can be nice if you have a lot of work to do, but it's good to know. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of different things actually. For me personally, I love to live close to the beach, but that's a personal decision because some people would prefer the mountains. Yeah, so it's a little mix where I make my selection of.
Okay, thanks a lot. I also launched a poll so people can pick if they're planning to come to Panama, but also which our audience thinks are their most important factors. I will share the polls shortly when you voted. But first, let's go to John, because we're talking about Panama. But why Panama? What is so great about Panama, and why did you choose for Panama, John?
Well, Panama has almost everything I'm looking for. For my work, it has good internet. The weather is good. It's well connected with an airport, direct flights to almost all countries. No tax income for income abroad, which is really nice. There are enough expats. It's economic stable due to the income of the canal. So yeah, many reasons to live here.
John, I completely agree with you, but I may be a bit biased. But yeah, I think you touched upon a lot of the advantages of Panama. Anki, do you have anything to add to that? What do you think is so great about Panama?
Yeah, John already mentioned a lot of things, but yeah, for me as well, it's the possibility to connect also with people from other countries, but also the local people. And yeah, for me, the beaches, the islands, the environment, the climate. There's a lot of great things about Panama, I have to say. Yeah.
Okay. Mario, anything to add to that, or you think we've covered all benefits of this country by now?
Well, I'm a little biased, being from Panama and trying to work out of here. But yeah, I mean, I think the fellow panelists have mentioned it. We have great connectivity. You can use Panama as a hub and jump for basically anywhere in the Americas in a few hours, and we have connections everywhere else in the world. You can be from one end of the country to the other end quite fast. You can be at the highlands one day, the next day be at the beach. So distance is quite important, and there's also a lot of diversity. So there's a lot of things to do depending on what you like. If you're a person that enjoys the nightlife, obviously now it's not the greatest time to do that, but you can have that in Panama. If you're a nature buff and you want to go out and explore, you can do that as well. And pretty much you can have data or Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere you go. So I think it's ideal. And if Nomad is considering Panama, I think they should give it a try. At least come in, visit it as a tourist and see if they find something that they fell in love with and want to explore further.
Thanks, Mario. Yeah, like what I also have when I come to Panama is you can see it a bit in the background, but that is the city, but it's the city blends in with nature, and I think you almost never have it like that. So it's really a great place to be, both in the city and in nature. And I think I agree with all the other points that you mentioned. It's on the sea. You can choose Caribbean or Pacific. it has it basically all. But of course, there are also some disadvantages or maybe drawbacks for nomads, which of course we also need to highlight. First, I just shared the poll results. Majority of people is thinking of coming here, but the factors that are considered most important, I think most of them are about equal, but one comes out a little bit more is the cost of living. And yeah, for the rest, it's basically all that are mentioned. Okay, let's go into the cons of Panama, because not everything can be great about a country. John, what do you think are the drawbacks of Panama for nomads?
Well, actually, I know only two. It's not the cheapest place of living, although it's not expensive. But if you look to Asia or Colombia, it's cheaper to live there. So that's one reason. And another reason, there are not many people who speak Dutch here, so you have to learn Spanish.
Yeah, that is important. People think that everybody speaks English here because also of the history with Americans being at the canal, but it's not like that. So as Spanish comes in, it's quite necessary to speak Spanish here. Cost of living, I do agree. It's not a cheap country, but especially if you go into the interior, it gets a lot cheaper than in the city. Anki, what are your things that you think are drawbacks from Panama?
Yeah, well, the cost of living definitely is a thing. It's already mentioned. Well, I was living on the island, so of course it needs to come from mainland, what transportation-wise probably also will make it more expensive. And finding a place to live. Also, it's depending, there is definitely a good internet connection, you can find it, but I was living a bit on a boat, and on that place I didn't have a good internet connection. So yeah, you need to consider and ask around how the internet is working before you choose a place or before you choose a certain island. Also, I think, well, my Spanish is not that great. I know the mañana, and that's also a little bit of the mentality if you have to deal with the local people. I love it, but yeah, it's definitely things I would not say it's a drawback, but it's something you need to consider or at least be aware of.
Okay. No, thanks. I think, yeah, that covers most of the drawbacks of Panama. But yeah, of course, I'm here and you are here too. So it has more advantages to us. And also, Panama aims to attract new nomads with the visa, but also, of course, if you're for shorter time, as Mario said, you can be here at a tourist visa, traveling around, and there's way of setting up your company and paying taxes here. Well, also for after this webinar, I set up a LinkedIn group for you, for the attendees on Panama, where after this webinar, we will also upload the recording there, but everybody can share their information and best spots on Panama, tips, also on setting up a company. I'll try to answer questions there myself as well. Usually that will be on Fridays, but I will, and then in the evenings. So I will share in the chat also the direct link to the group, but I just launched it yesterday. So feel free to join. And talking about beautiful spots, I would like to go to these spots. I asked Anki and also John to pick their favorite spot and a picture of it. I will start with my favorite spot first, where I worked as a nomad 3 years ago. I was remote working from this place. Not bad, no? This is Santa Catalina in Veraguas on the south coast of Panama. This is a guest house called Coiba House, where I was living, and I worked exactly from that table. It is great for diving, scuba diving. I dived with hammerhead sharks, with whale sharks, manta rays. It's everybody. Everything is there in Coiba National Park, but almost nobody knows it. People pay a lot of money to go to Cocos or to Galapagos for diving, while here you just have it in front of the coast. So that's amazing. There's one of the best, I think the best surf in Central America is here, together with Bocas on the other side, which Anki can tell you about. We have La Punta break here in Santa Catalina, which is great for surfing. The little, like the girls from the village, it's a village of 400 people. They will take you and teach you how to surf. There may be 12 or 10 or 12 years old, but they can surf better than me for sure. So it's a great place to chill, and I think it's also it's very attractive to tourists, but also a lot of nomads are going there to really be off. Like, it's difficult to get to. It's about 6 hours from Panama City, but that is also the charm of this village, that you're in paradise, away from it all. There's Wi-Fi there. So that is my favorite spot. But now let's go to the spots of John and Anki. And please feel free to share your screen and your picture. John, could you go first?
Yeah, I will start. Let me share the screen. This is a picture of La Azotea, one of the many rooftop bars in Panama City. This is one of my favorites. You see, you have a really nice view over the skyline of Panama. It's in Casco Viejo, the old city. So this is an area where I really like to come often. And
that is a place. Do you work there as well, or just for hanging out?
Yeah, just for hanging out, because with my work I use several screens as a trader, so it's difficult to bring several screens and put it in a restaurant. So no, I do it after work and hang around there.
Okay. Now, thanks a lot. Yeah, I come there too a lot. Also, sometimes we have before COVID, small events there, lunch events, but also drinks. This is also, Panama is very famous for these rooftops. In Casco Viejo, the colonial quarter, you can see the skyline in the background on this picture. It's just amazing. It has really great nightlife. So thanks a lot, John, for sharing this with us. Now let's go to Anki and her picture, but I think Anki couldn't pick one picture. She picked a few, no?
Yeah, true. If you ask me to take my favorite picture, I cannot choose. I need to see how I can share it. I think, yes. So yeah, it's a tropical island or tropical islands. So it's like multiple islands. It's the ocean, it's the jungle, amazing sunset, beaches, snorkeling, diving. For me, it is a great mix. My favorite island would be Bastimentos, one of the islands of the archipelago. Yeah, because it's the jungle, it's the ocean, it's just a perfect combination, and you always can go to one of the other islands just by waving a taxi boat down, and then you can choose to go to a restaurant or to even a party. I think there is slowly coming, or just for other beaches or great places. Yeah.
Well, great pictures, and I also love Bocas. There's so many islands to choose from. You can go to the party island, Isla Colón, but if you want to, relax from it all, be in nature, you go to Bastimentos, surf, diving. There's so much there. So great to have you. So we have this different regions of Panama covered. You're going back there when?
Next month.
Next month.
So I'm having a holiday in the Netherlands, and then I'm going back to next month.
And looking forward to going back, I assume, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I miss it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And also you saw in your picture this wildlife, and we also have this in the city. You have, for example, from where I live, it's also in the city, but a bit more towards the canal. I can see sloths from my balcony, toucans, monkeys. And I think about every 500 meters where there's a little piece of water, there are crocodiles in there. Maybe not that inviting, but I like them. They're not too big. They don't do anything. And people here, they feed them bread, like we feed the ducks in Holland. They feed the crocodiles here. So it's really living with nature. And that is, I think, everywhere in Panama, even in Panama City, which is a modern city, but with great nature. But thanks. And now let's go to your tips. I would go back to Suzanne. When you prepare to go to a new place, what are your tips for other nomads? If you go to a country, how do you prepare?
I think, well, if you're a starter as a nomad, I think it's good to check out co-working places and see if there are communities, because it's the easiest way to connect and to meet other people. So I would suggest to just check if the Wi-Fi is good, if they have different co-working places, maybe Google them, maybe check out reviews. Because if you go to a co-working place for a month, you connect to a place, but also you connect to a community. And I think it's really good also for your network to meet up with people. They mainly have events or they throw parties. And yeah, I think working is good, but using your network and meeting up with new people, trying out new cultures, food, and those things are, I think, yeah, also really important when you travel around.
Okay.
Yeah. So I love to go to co-working places when I travel because of the network thing.
Yeah. Okay. And which social networks you use most for connecting with other, or which media do you use to connect with other nomads?
Maybe Instagram. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. LinkedIn is more in the Netherlands, I think. But when I travel around, people using Instagram or Facebook, like 4 years ago, but not anymore.
Well, there's still a lot of people on there, but here also, I think Instagram, also a lot of the places, the guest houses, they're also on Instagram because it's much more visible.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just a lot easier. LinkedIn a bit more for business issues, but to just connect and to show places, it's really Instagram, at least in Panama. But it's good to hear that it's the same for you. And do you also look at, for example, visa requirements, or do you tend to stay short in a place, or how long do you?
Yeah, no, visa requirements, I do check it. But some places you can stay for a month. Other places, I know when I get a visa, I can stay for 2 months. And for example, Nepal and India, you can easily stay for 3 months.
Yeah.
Which is not the first thing you probably think of as a nomad, because the Wi-Fi is not that reliable. But I do check out visa requirements. But mainly I go to places where I can stay for 1 or 2 months. And then if I want to, I do a visa run.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I come back. Yeah.
Good to know that. And here, for example, on the digital nomad visa is more for longer term. But if you would stay here shortly, after 3 months, you would need to go to, for example, Costa Rica or Colombia.
Yeah, exactly.
Or get an extension, and then you could come back again. But
The nomad visa is for how long? Again?
It's for 9 plus 9 months, right, Mario? 9 months with an extension, no? Yeah. So but if it's for shorter, it could be on just going here and staying as a tourist. So okay, now thanks. And then let's go to John's tips, especially related to Panama. What would you advise people that want to come here, and which places to go or to definitely visit in Panama, co-working, whatever you want to give to the attendees?
Well, I would suggest to book a short vacation to Panama to see it before you take the decision to move to Panama. That's something I did, and then you get a really good opinion about Panama. Also, another way to meet other expats or locals is Internations, which helped me quite good to find new people.
Yeah.
And Facebook, of course.
Okay. Yeah. And what places do you really like besides Panama City?
Well, I haven't traveled that much, so right now it's Panama City for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, good to hear. I like the city a lot too, but it's yeah on the weekends or sometimes when you have a bit longer, it's great to go to other places. For example, El Valle, which is in the mountains, the second biggest inhabited volcano crater in the world. It's a good selling point, I think, and that is a little bit up, so it's a bit cooler because Panama City is don't envy us, but it's about 30 degrees, I think, all year round. Bit of fluctuation, but it doesn't. I don't think it ever gets colder than 26. Yeah, in the mountains it's a little bit cooler. So, but let's see what Anki, thank John for that. Anki, which places do you really recommend people to go, and what are your tips for when people come to Panama, like how to prepare or what to expect?
Yeah, well, I would recommend definitely going to some places like Boquete. It's in the night, like in the mountains for hikes. I really love Santa Catalina as well for the diving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, for a little holiday in between or something, the San Blas normally would be a beautiful place. I would like to visit. So yeah, there is a lot of everything. And of course, Bocas and Del Toro, what is the best place for me because of the great combination of jungle and ocean. My tip, well, what helped me a lot is using Facebook as, because that's how I found my job to begin with. But also there are like forums like young expats in Panama, for example, or in Bocas, there's an open forum and people ask their questions and get really good answers and people are willing to help. And so, you know, even with internet, if you want to know if there's a good internet and where, people will help you out. So that's a good way to prepare yourself, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, thanks for that. And now, yeah, let's go to the attendees that have some questions. So if you are attending this webinar, you can either use the raise hand function. So we can give you the floor to ask your question directly with your voice. But also you can, in the Q&A, you can write a question and I will read the question to the participants. And I see we have 3 questions at the moment. So first question from Rudy Lynette. Is it safe in Panama? He is asking. Who would like to take this question?
I will.
Yeah.
My experience, yes, it is safe. I stayed there for 1.5 years and never had any bad experiences. But of course, I know I've heard stories about some places like, hey, you know, it might be a little bit, yeah, some areas maybe in Panama City, but I cannot answer. That's something I've heard from other people. But overall, I definitely felt very safe there.
Okay. John, what do you think in the city?
Yeah, it's really safe. Of course, if you go to really bad areas alone in the night, just like all the major cities in the world, then it can be dangerous. But overall, it's very safe.
Yeah. Yeah, I also agree with that. I think I'm in Panama City, but I feel very safe as well. And I think there's quite a difference. If you, for example, are in Bogota, you feel it's different. Yeah, like you have to be more aware. And I think, yeah, Panama City in general is a very safe city. Of course, there are some neighborhoods you should not come to, which is sometimes when you rent a car and you use Google Maps or something like that. Sometimes Google sends you to not the best places because it's the shortest route. But so you have to be aware of that. But yeah, no, in general, I think it's very safe. Mario, would you agree with that? It's safe in Panama, or?
I've never felt, I lived here all of my life, I never felt, aside from walking, as you mentioned, in the middle of the night in a very dangerous neighborhood. I mean, I walk around with my kids a lot. I walk the dog. We take a lot of trips up to the country, and I feel safe when I walk around. I don't feel that it's not a dense environment. It's actually quite friendly. My only gripe will be that Panama, at least the city, was designed for automobiles. It's not very pedestrian friendly, no. So, but safety itself. I mean, we've been walking around in the old quarter late at night after a night of drinking, and you know, there's never had an issue. At least, thankfully, never had an issue myself.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for that. So, Rudy, I hope that answered your question. Then let's go to Christy Sullivan. She has a question on what do most digital nomads or remote workers do for work there? Are most folks freelancers, digital marketing experts, software developer types, or other types like business professionals? Thanks, Christy. I don't think this is an easy question, but let's see who knows something about this. John, what do you think?
Yeah, difficult to say. I know what I'm doing. I'm trading on the stock exchange, but I don't know what other nomads are doing here.
Okay. Yeah, Anki, what did you hear from people on Bocas, what they're doing, or?
Well, I have to say a lot of people in Bocas are having their own businesses there, like related to tourism, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've heard from some people is like, for myself, like I am teaching online. So I'm teaching Dutch online in this case. And I've heard from people giving personal training online. So it's a mix. Yeah, but I cannot really answer. No.
No, I think it's also hard to say because there are not that many nomads in Panama yet, I think. Also, of course, we had the COVID period, which made it very difficult to come here, or impossible during, I think, about 7 months. But yeah, I can also I don't really know this, but maybe also on the LinkedIn group, we can share, maybe do a poll of the people that are here, what they are doing. So we get a bit of a view. But like what Mario said is also quite important. If you're working and you have income, foreign income, you're working for clients abroad, which most likely would be, well, it could be content writing, travel blogs, digital marketing. That is not taxed in Panama if you're paying tax here. Yeah, so, but yeah, no, it's difficult to say this, Christy. But we'll do a poll. I do a poll on the LinkedIn group, and see if we can get some more information on this. Very good question, and interesting one. Then another question from Rudy Lynette. What is the monthly spends in Panama? I think you mean the monthly cost of living. Mario, what do you think?
I knew it was going to come to me. All right, so let's say
Panamanian.
Yeah, we have to put in a little bit for rent, and we have to put in a little bit for groceries and going about. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $750 to $1,000 a month, a minimum, something to that, you know, in that neighborhood. It depends a lot on what you're looking for. Obviously, if you want, you know, big apartment in beach, you know, in front of the ocean, then your rent is going to go up. But you can find properties for rent here in Panama for, you know, $350, $500, $600, small apartments. You know, the basic, the estimate for groceries in Panama is about $350 a month. I don't think that's accurate. Actually, I think it's gone up a lot recently. But that's what the government has as an estimate for the previous data that we get. But I will say, yeah, something like in the neighborhood of $750 to $1,000 to live adequately, at least in the city. I'm pretty sure that if you go to the country, it will be cheaper.
Yeah. Okay, John, what do you think about the same?
Yeah, I totally agree with this answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, groceries are quite expensive here in the supermarket. If you go in the market, it's less. But what you also sometimes do, the real estate prices have gone really, like the rent of apartments is super low now, because yeah, there's just so much availability. I think it's about 30%. And yeah, you can get a really good place for cheap now. And also what some people do is to share an apartment with different rooms. That is also an option. Maybe to hear like at Bocas, because we're now talking about costs in the city. Anki, do you have an estimate or of your monthly costs, what it would be in Bocas if you would have a place to pay for there, etc.?
I think the price, well, if you want to rent something small, I think it's around 450, more or less, you know, and it's of course depending on what type of house you want, if you're staying off grid or a little bit more on luxury. And food wise, I think you will get close to the 750, 1,000 a month. I think it will be similar. Yeah.
Okay. Like in Santa Catalina, it is like out of the city as well, and there it is also a lot cheaper. I think accommodation you can get cheaper, but also let's say, if you just buy the local produce, you can even, there's a restaurant for $5 you have your lunch. So I think out of the city you can get better prices, and during the week, if you, for example, make short trips, it's also a lot cheaper than in the weekends now. But this, I hope this answers the question on a bit on pricing. It's in dollars, by the way. It's a country that has the Balboa, but it's in dollars. So if you're coming from a Euro country, for example, that is you're fortunate. If you get paid in euros as well, if you get paid in dollars, it's not that good. Okay, well, then the last question, or no, I think we have more. We have a lot more. Well, from Darcy Gasparovich, which is a friend of mine from Santa Catalina. Darcy, welcome. He runs Coiba House, guest house, best place in Santa Catalina, I would say. I'm a bit biased because that's where I lived for 2 months. So he's asking, are there specific forums, networks, where I can reach and market to digital nomads? Let's start with that. Suzanne, what are, let's say, groups worldwide or forums where a lot of nomads find out about destinations?
Difficult one. Like the Facebook group thing is popular with networking and work stuff. So maybe also with accommodations, but I never checked it. So for me personally, it wouldn't work, but everyone is different, of course. Tough one. I don't know. Let me know.
Okay. Well, the groups is a good thing because you have you have on LinkedIn, you have a number of groups of like remote workers on LinkedIn, digital nomads. If you search for that, you find these worldwide groups also on Facebook, but these are like worldwide. This one I just set up is on Panama, and it's actually on LinkedIn, the only one on Panama, but I think on Facebook there's also another one on Panama, and that would be good for really location specific information, I think.
I would actually maybe recommend to work together with travel or digital nomad influencers. Just invite them over, and then give them a week or maybe just a week stay, ask them for promotion, and then they target the right group. Maybe they have a travel blog, maybe they can write about it. I think a lot of nomads are also on Instagram following other people, and if you give them a place to stay for a week and maybe a discount, maybe not for free. I mean, you can think of a barter deal or something. I think maybe that will work.
Yeah, that's a good tip, I think, to attract these influencers to your place and show how nice it is. And this way people also get to know a bit more on Panama.
And I also know that on the Nomad list there is a community. I don't know if you guys know the nomadlist.com, but it's a website with a lot of information about nomad destinations. And they also have a community group there. I mean, if you can target in there, then
Nomad List is a Dutch initiative, but now it's used by nomads worldwide. It's
True.
like the #1 place for nomads, where all nomads, they rate their places on Wi-Fi, on cost of living. So all the cities are, let's say, rated. So it's really, good to have a look. Only not on Panama City and Panama, because
No,
it's
I checked it.
not
No,
correct at all.
it's not correct.
So I think what happened there is that some nomads rated it, but not that many, and that those nomads didn't have that good of an experience, because some issues are just not true. Some are, but most is not. For example, the cost of living was rated low, which it isn't. But also, for example, safety, it's great here, and so Panama.
Yeah, it's not always accurate.
Not always correct.
That's correct. Yeah, but it's good to have an overview, but don't.
Yeah, to have an overview and to connect maybe with other nomads there as well, because I think Nomad List is really, really great. So thanks for mentioning that. And Darcy and others, you could also go to these worldwide groups and then just search on the word Panama, who has interest in Panama, because then you could react to them, or if they're looking for Santa Catalina or another place. That is also an option I could think of. John, Anki, do you know any, let's say, forums or networks locally? John, you mentioned Internation, I think.
Yeah, Internation and Facebook. That's the only two that I use.
Okay. And Anki? Yeah?
Yeah, Facebook. And sometimes I'm just searching for groups, just enter Panama and then groups and see what is there. So you have like expats in Panama, for example, or an open forum, in this case for Bocas, where like a lot of times expats and foreigners are part of. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. I hope, Darcy, that answers your question. Let's see. I think that also covers how to market to nomads. Then Peter Lazarevic, a question: is there? This is a question for Mario. Is there a minimum amount of days per year required to be in Panama to maintain tax residency? I'm planning on setting up my business in a country that is attractive tax-wise, but I simultaneously plan to travel perpetually. Great plan, Peter. But Mario, is there a minimum amount of days to maintain your tax residency here in Panama?
Yes, but there are more considerations than the amount of days. For an individual, it's 183 days a year. But also, if you have bought property here, then you will also be considered to have a tax address. And if you establish a company in Panama, immediately after doing so, that company has a tax address in Panama. So it will not depend on the amount of time that the owner of the company stays here. It just depends on the inscription. But as a general rule, it's 183 days for individuals.
Yeah. Okay. And also, if you set up your business here, for example, and be a tax resident, so you have 183 days to be here, and that will be checked by migration records, or how do they?
No, usually it comes from a moment in which you need to request a certification of tax residency for tax purposes elsewhere. For example, you're filing your tax statements in your country of origin, and you need to prove that you've been in here for most of the year, and you have a tax residence here. Then you go to the tax authority of Panama, and they will do a quick check. You provide them with the information to do a check, which maybe it's an immigration report of your entries and exits in the country, or other information associated with your line of work or your filings, what you've been doing here for the time that you need to certify tax residence here in Panama. So it usually comes when you need it for somewhere else. When you do, for example, when you do a renewal of permit, an immigration permit that gives way to residency, you also have to undergo a process in which you procure a good standing certificate from the tax authority. And they do a very similar check. They will just check that you've been, at least while you have the residence here in Panama, been constantly coming in and out. You had an address here or a business here.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, and I think it's if you live here and have your tax residence here, it's advantageous also because as a really small company, you can get an exemption that you mentioned by AMPIME, and tax rates are generally low. So and I think that answers the the question of Peter. So thanks a lot for that, Mario. Now another question I certainly did expect. That is, what is the COVID situation? Question from Rudy Lynette. The COVID situation in Panama. John, what would you say on that?
Masks are mandatory. There's a curfew at 10 p.m. But besides that, everything is now open. So all the restaurants are open. Nightlife is not open yet, but it's quite good at the moment. But it's difficult to predict what will be in the future.
Okay. That's to the point. Mario, what could you add to that?
Well, yes, I think things are getting better. Vaccination has increased, and they're doing a lot of effort to promote vaccination in all areas of the country. So we foresee, younger people getting vaccinated, people in the 20s to 30s range, even young children now from I think 12 or 16 up are getting vaccinated in some places. Yeah. So things are picking up, and I don't think that we will go back to where we were before, even though we have had some spikes in certain areas. I think that it's a matter of learning to live with the COVID and trying to move forward. Restaurants are putting a lot of pressure because obviously trying to work up a restaurant schedule with a 10 o'clock deadline, it's quite difficult. If you're just going and having a nice dinner, you feel that you're being rushed to finish, and that's not the point. And a lot of small businesses have been hit quite hard by COVID measurements. So I don't think that we're going to go back to where we were maybe 6 months ago. And I do think that things are picking up and are quite better.
I think so as well. And especially in the city, it's quite good, almost normal, except for the evening curfew. But I heard that in some provinces there are curfews there. There's some more. Some more cases, so they either have a earlier evening lockdown or a weekend in some cases. That's so it's just good to check the region where you go to if they have restrictions, and but it changes very quickly. So for example, if the cases go down, they just lift the restrictions again, so it's good to check. But in the city and around the cities or the province of Panama, it's very good now especially compared to what it used to be. So that is the COVID situation, and you can check on, for example, the Visit Panama tourist site, what the requirements are for entering the country, for testing and these kind of things. And or the Tocumen side of the international airport here. Panama has 3 airports, but Tocumen is the international one for flying from Europe or the States. But also you have 2 other airports, one for flying to Bocas and to regional places, and the other one who is temporarily stopped, I think, with flights, but that has cheap flights to Colombia and Costa Rica, which is Panama Pacifico Airport. So a luxury of having 3 airports in one city, which is not that big, Panama City. So, but I think that's about everything on the COVID situation. And so far, I think we're through with the questions, and also with time. I think a bit over it, but that's good, I think. So we can share all this information with you. I'll. Just a sec. I will share my screen with you. So, you're welcome to join the group. Also, this is just like a personal page. I'm just trying to help other nomads with, and that nomads can help each other. But also, you can, if you, for example, for businesses, if you want to set up a business, know about taxes, these kind of things, you can contact Holland House and also the Castro and Robles lawyers to help with that. They can do, for example, the setup of your business in Panama, or anything you need to know. Also welcome to have a coffee or just give me a shout when you're in the city. Then to finalize, just our thank you note on our members that sponsor us, our premium members, and a big thanks to the participants, the Nomads that shared their experience about Panama and about being a nomad here today. Suzanne, John, and Anki, thanks a lot for being here. And Suzanne, welcome to Panama. When you can travel again.
It's on my list for sure.
Thanks. And John and Anki, looking forward to seeing you around here in the city or in Bocas. Attendees, thanks for everything, and we'll share the recording on this webinar as well, so you can review everything what is said. Okay, I think that was all. So bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.